Hello friends, my name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, an easy guide to a healthy lifestyle. And welcome to Ayurveda Answers. Today we're going to talk about how to put up with your Pitta loved one. And I say that a little bit in jest because I am part Pitta, meaning that my dominant dosha is Vata Pitta. So I'm primarily Vata type, which is comprised of space and air. My secondary dosha is Pitta, which is fire and water. And my third dosha is Kapha, which is comprised of water and earth. Now remember, in Ayurveda, we have all three of the doshas or the mind-body types, the Ayurvedic mind-body types created between those five elements, so space, air, fire, water, and earth. But we have different proportions of those mind-body types, of those doshas. Most people are two dosha types. Some people are singular dosha types. And very, very rarely is someone a three dosha type. It's super rare. It's like 1 in a million. So if you're 1 in a million, then maybe you're tridoshic. Let's talk about Pitta and how to put up with your Pitta loved one. And I say that a little bit, like I said, in jest, because Pitta types can be a little challenging at times. Now, I know this firsthand because I do have a lot of Pitta in me. I'm mostly Vata, so when I get stressed out, I usually go into Vata mode, which Vatas are always like, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? How can I make this better? And Pitta types are typically like, what did you do wrong? What did you do? And so that stress response is totally different for Vata type, Pitta type, or Kapha type. So Pittas, as I mentioned, can be a little bit difficult to handle at times, especially if your Pitta type comes packaged as a sister or brother or a spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or even a mom or dad. It can be really, really difficult because Pitta types, when they are stressed out and when they're not in balance, Pitta types are comprised of fire and water, of course, so that fiery element tends to flare up and they become critical, judgmental, they jump to conclusions, they become overly angry and upset. They're usually really impatient. And I know in me, I see that impatience creep up. So that part of me is Pitta. It's that impatience. And maybe judgmental more toward myself than toward others. So I might find that I am criticizing myself a little bit, trying to expect that perfection from myself versus in other people necessarily. It comes up sometimes in other people, but most of the time it comes up within myself. So that being said, Pitta types, it can be super difficult when they're really critical and angry and upset. And if you are a Vata or Kapha type, it can make you want to run for the hills. So a Vata type is just going to be like fight flight. They're just going to flee kind of from the situation and not really deal with a Pitta type because they're going to introspect. Vata types are going to be like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? What is wrong? What did I say? And they're going to go over the conversation in their heads like 1,000 times going, how could I have said this differently? How could I have been nicer? Maybe I shouldn't have been so chatty. And then the Kapha type is just going to withdraw within themselves and kind of soak it all in and take it all in. And they're just going to withdraw in that relationship. Now, a Pitta on Pitta, whoa, that's fire times fire. It's totally nuts and crazy. If you and someone you love are both Pitta types, then you probably have had quite a bit of conflict when you're both out of balance and when you're both upset and angry and critical, and that just gets totally out of control. When a Pitta type is out of balance, when they are in their mode of criticizing, being judgmental, trying to make others be perfect, and being angry and spouting off anger, the best thing you can do with a Pitta type is probably walk away initially, so you don't want to add fuel to that fire. But the next thing you can do is there's some things like in the environment that you can do, and this might sound a little bit manipulative, but it really works if you can create an environment that's going to be calming to them. One thing you can do is burn some incense. Sandalwood is really good for a Pitta type. Patchouli is another good one. Vanilla and lavender scents are really good for the Pitta type. Kind of like a combination of some of those, maybe like a lavender vanilla scent or either a sandalwood mixed in with some patchouli might be really nice for them. So those scents can kind of calm them down. You could even burn a candle with those scents and just kind of have it throughout the house. And that would be really, really nice, a nice calming effect. Playing really soft music, maybe some ocean sounds, like ocean wave sounds. Pittas being fire and water, they tend to really gravitate toward that watery effect. So ocean sounds is really perfect. You can maybe put on a mood CD or mood music in the background. Maybe in your cable channel, they have something, I know in my cable channel, they have something called Soundscapes, which is more like this new agey relaxation and meditation type music. So you can have that playing in the background. So something really soothing along with those soothing scents. Wearing colors that are more Pitta friendly. So reds and oranges tend to flare up the Pitta attitude and anger. And I know this sounds trivial and silly, like it can sound a little bit like simplistic, but these little subtleties in the experience through the five senses for that Pitta type are really important. And this goes for all the doshas. I'm speaking specifically about Pitta, but really this goes for all of the doshas, that there are certain things, sights, sounds, smells, touch, different feelings, different emotions that come through the five senses, and you're able to taper those off a little bit through the changing of the environment. As I mentioned, so scents, soothing music, maybe some ocean sounds would be really nice, kind of filtering through the home or through the workplace or wherever you happen to be with your Pitta type. Maybe even an aquarium. Putting an aquarium in the office space where your Pitta boss is, or putting an aquarium in the home or maybe the central location with fish swimming. That's super soothing to a Pitta type. Pittas love nature and they connect with nature really, really well, and that tends to calm them down. It tends to take off the competitive edge or the goal-oriented mind that they tend to have. Pitta types are a little bit like what you would call in Western psychology or philosophy, I guess. It's more of a philosophy than psychology, really, of the type A personality. So they tend to be super goal-oriented, and they don't necessarily appreciate the steps along the way. So you can kind of help them appreciate the steps along the way by creating a more soothing environment for them. Meditation is really, really good for a Pitta type, as well as all body types, but specifically that Pitta anger, that Pitta frustration and criticism. Meditation can take that away or just take it down a few notches, most definitely. Just talking to them in a voice that's maybe 2 octaves lower than you would normally speak. And if you're a Vata type, you know exactly what I mean. I'm a Vata type, and when I start to get upset and nervous because a Pitta in my life is getting angry and critical, then I tend to speak faster and in a more high-pitched voice. And that really will aggravate a Pitta type even more. So if you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? I don't understand what's wrong. Why are you so angry? Why are you so upset? And then that will aggravate the Pitta into being even more critical, more judgmental, and maybe even more upset. Speaking slowly and lowering the octaves a little bit more would be a good way to deal with a Pitta type. And letting them cool down, really. That fire, when a fire is too hot, it really does need to cool down. So providing the space for that Pitta type to really chill out, really cool down is a great idea. Even serving them food, you want to serve foods which are cooling. Salads are really good for Pitta types, no matter what the season is outside, because they have that internal fire within them. They tend to be really fiery. So raw foods, cold foods, salads, cold fruit, like cold, juicy, sweet fruit is really good. Mangoes are excellent for Pitta types. Things like mint. Mint leaves are very good for cooling down a Pitta. Cucumber is really nice. And cilantro, thinking of those foods that are more cooling in nature that can temper down or cool down that Pitta. If you can take a walk with them in nature, take a forest walk, a hike, even mentioning a hike, saying, hey, I know that you've been super stressed out with work lately. Let's go ahead and schedule a hike for Saturday morning. We'll leave early in the morning. Pittas love leaving early in the morning because they don't like to have their time wasted. So if you schedule it for later in the day, they just might be a little frustrated. But if you schedule it like crack of dawn, first thing in the morning, as soon as you say that, a Pitta type's going to want to plan it out, and that's fine. Just let them plan the whole thing out, and you just come along for the ride, because that's the way Pitta types tend to be. They're very take charge. They are leaders, after all. So they will want to plan things out, and you can kind of go along for the ride and be like, okay, here we go. The only thing I wouldn't suggest doing with a Pitta type is getting into some sort of competitive game with them. If you suggest like, hey, let's play this video game together, or let's play a board game, or let's go play a tennis match together, their competitiveness will actually aggravate their Pitta even more. What they need is something that is super non-competitive, that more equals play. So something with playfulness is a lot better. Sitting in a jacuzzi, even though it's hot, but like that relaxation, the sound of the bubbles, the soothingness of the environment is something that can help calm them down rather than pump them up. If you say, hey, let's go play tennis together, and it'll be that super competitive environment. It's something that you absolutely do not want. Another thing that will help soothe your Pitta is agreeing with them. Now, this doesn't mean that you necessarily agree with their point of view. You don't have to agree with their point of view, but just acknowledge that they might be right, even though you don't think they're right. And that's not being disrespectful to them. It's more just acknowledging their opinion on things. Pittas tend to be pretty darn opinionated. Now, that is one other trait I share with a classic Pitta type. I tend to be pretty opinionated. Now, I do listen to the other side, but with certain people, I tend to be pretty categorical. Now, over time, through maturity, this has eased up a little bit. I used to be a lot more categorical. I'm hoping that with age, I'm getting a little better about this. But Pitta types tend to be super categorical about what they believe in and their opinions about certain topics and things. The thing that they feed off of and that will flare up their Pitta fire is if you challenge them. There's a time and place for everything. Of course, you want to challenge your friends. You want to challenge your family members sometimes, because a good debate is a good way to expand ideas and to have a really great conversation and to dig deeper and to see other people's point of view. And if your Pitta type has been stressed out, if they're feeling out of balance, if they've been overly critical and over judgmental lately, perhaps that is not the time to start a debate with them or try to get them to change their point of view. Acknowledging their opinion and acknowledging it is possibly valid, even if you don't agree with it on the inside. If you're not like, no way, this doesn't resonate with me. Just, you can say something like, oh, I see your point of view, or I see how you can see things that way. And it would just make the relationship a whole lot easier if you were able to do that until they were back in balance and you could have a healthy debate with them about these sorts of things. I hope this has helped you to understand the Pitta type a little bit better, and you're part of the dynamics of the relationship with a Pitta type. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel, share this video with friends, family, and your dog, and I will see you in the next video.